Tonight's meeting, we're going to talk about builders, which is something that gets brought up quite a bit. And so I think it should be an interesting discussion. I was just approached by, and this was through Carolyn Sithong. She's got a builder who wants OTs to start contracting for Southwestern Michigan for aging in place. And I don't do a whole lot of aging in place, so it's a whole new market for me. Is there anybody here that's doing aging in place?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
Working with people as far as planning for aging. Like what I do is catastrophic injuries predominantly.
I do.
Who just
I work
said?
with Aging in Place. This is Stephanie
Oh, hello,
in
Bethany.
Southeast Michigan. Hello.
Hey, baby. Where are you? Where are you located?
I work at an area agency on aging in Wayne, Michigan, actually.
Ooh, in Lane, Michigan?
Wayne.
Wayne, Michigan. Oh, on the east side of the state.
Yes.
Oh. So how does that work for you? How does it work for you?
Well, it's a work in progress. So, one of the things I'm tasked with in my role there is to build a program we're calling Safe at Home, to assist people in aging safely by making home remediation to homes for older adults who live in the community. So we're trying not to rely on grants. So we're always looking for an opportunity, for instance, of partnering with financial institutions. There's other programs like through the Federal Home Loan Bank that people can qualify for to get services. So we're trying not to take the traditional route of, grants and chasing the dollar, trying to figure out how to make the program sustainable.
So people would pay for their own home modifications?
Not if we can't find a partner willing to do that, which is, like I said, we're working with Federal Home Loan Bank is one of our partners, so we're trying to figure out, they have a program called Accessible Modifications Program, or AMP. And the way it works is it is a lien on someone's home for 5 years, but it's a forgivable lien.
How does that work?
They have to be low income, so they have to income qualify, but then they can get home modifications done. I can't remember the actual dollar amount total, but they can get the funds to do it, and then as long as they remain in their home for 5 years, I believe 5 to 7 years, then the loan is forgiven.
Oh, wow. And they obviously have to own their home?
Yes. So it wouldn't be for renters.
Is that throughout Michigan? Or that just in your area?
I don't think it's just in Michigan, because the Federal Home Loan Bank parent company is actually in Indianapolis.
Oh.
It's a relatively new program. So I think they're still kind of working out the details as well. But it's been up and running for at least a year.
Wow.
What's it called again?
The AMP program, for Accessible Modification Program.
Okay.
Through the Federal Home Loan Parent Company?
Federal Home Loan Bank.
Federal Home Loan Bank. Ah. How did you find out about that?
Well, as I said, in my role, I'm been tasked with capacity building for this program. So I have an AmeriCorps Vista person who's working with our program full time, who's also got a quite extensive real estate and some other housing background. So kind of through those connections, that's how I got introduced to them.
Nice. And I missed your name. What was your name again?
Bethany.
Bethany. Oh, hi, Bethany.
Hello.
Wow, that's really good information. Has anybody else heard of any of this? The accessible modification program?
No, I haven't heard of it, but I haven't checked into it
It's like
either.
one out of Howard County in Maryland. Have you talked or looked into? I think somebody talked about it a week or two or three, whatever ago, about community development block grants. Um, Mary Becker out of Howard County Office for Aging might be a good person to reach out to. Um, I worked with her program for a while, and it was similar low income folks, and then just kind of basic modifications being provided to them. And it sounds very similar to what you're trying to start or are starting. Might be a resource for you to reach out to.
And who was that? Mary Becker
Yep.
out of Maryland?
Yeah, she's at the Howard County Office for Aging.
Yeah. And this is Scott Jones speaking, by the way. He's one of our I want to say sponsors. I forgot what it was we were gonna advisors. He's one of our advisors. So,
Participant would be fine.
or participant. I don't know. You've got a lot of experience with this, Scott.
All the time. But yeah, reach out to Mary Becker. She's done this. I'd say replicated it in Montgomery County. They won an NC4A award for the services that they provided and the dramatic reduction in caregiver assistance needed just through OT interventions, mostly home modifications, but still OT per se. So just something to reach out to.
So is Mary Becker, and also for the AMP program, is there ways for occupational therapists to get reimbursed for their evaluations?
Are you asking, well, particularly to the Aging in Place program? I would say a lot of folks can get reimbursed for EMODs through waivers, pardon me, Medicaid waivers. Each state usually has their own little program with monies allocated to that. And so you can, I know Maryland pays $400 a pop for waiver evaluations, but every state's different.
And we've been talking about waivers for a while. So
for the AMP program, I asked that question. Right now, no, but they're actually in the process of revising the program, so they were open to feedback. So I didn't make that recommendation.
You did make that recommendation?
I did.
Good for you.
I don't know how far it'll go, but
no, it's worth a try. I mean, there's people making big headway. Carolyn Sithon, Tori. There's a few other people who are really pushing occupational therapy, and it's working. We need to make sure we get in on this home modification legislation, and we get in for reimbursement. I know in Michigan we didn't have anybody to advocate for occupational therapists with the autism crowd, and they just rewrote this legislation, and ABA behaviorists get reimbursed 15 hours a week for intervention with autism, and occupational therapy is not in there anywhere, but it's because nobody advocated. So that's something we gotta make sure we do for home mods. In fact, yeah, I think we all should look. I'm gonna look into the accessible mod program a little bit more, and maybe we can all get some information and call our representatives or call the program so we can get in on it. So nice. Anybody else have any is already working with the Aging in Place? And so, Bethany, you work for the Area Agency on Aging?
I do.
And then
Southern and Western Wayne County.
And so what's your capacity there? What do you do?
I will say I'm not enrolled there officially as an OT. but I do a lot of program development. So I've been tasked with the Aging in Place, or we call it Safe at Home program, and also a diabetes self-management program.
But not as an OT?
I use my OT lens, but officially, no, not as an OT.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we kind of just jumped right in. I'm never certain how the best way to start these meetings so that people can slowly ease into the topic. Is there anything anybody had on their mind in particular as far as the builders go that would like to get anything answered? Anyone? Okay. Well, we kind of are starting this. I got a lot of questions. Alicia, is that how you pronounce your name? We're kind of basing this on one of her questions that she had posted, and I'm going to switch this off here.
Hey, Karen.
Yes.
This is Jen Huggins, and I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute my speakers when you asked if anybody had any questions. I just wanted to jump in real quick, and I do have a question when it relates when we're talking about builders. Is one of my big questions is, how do I talk to builders? Like, how do I formulate my reports to talk to builders?
Yeah. Good. Okay.
Because I understand, we understand function. They understand, how to put how to build. I don't know how to make that language come together.
That's important.
I say, what is it that you're, and this goes to maybe that question that was posed in the thing is, what legislation, or do I have to worry about legalities or rules?
That too, right.
And I always try to go back to what are you doing? What is it that you're trying to accomplish in your role? Are you being an OT? Are you being a consultant? Or are you trying to be a general contractor and take over the project yourself? And each one of those hats, if you will, is going to answer that question a little bit differently. And I think that's probably the starting point. And when people oftentimes say, well, I have caps, and so does that allow me to do home modifications? I say, well, sure. But what does do home modifications mean? Does that mean you're a home care therapist and you like to go out and specialize in talking to people about grab bars where you're working under the medical model? And again, it all goes back to what your particular role is. I think is a starting point before you can even ask the question, how do I talk to the contractor? Because talking to the contractor is going to mean totally different things, pardon me, based on that role that you're assuming.
So I think, or can I just answer that? Or
sure. Yeah.
So for me specifically, my role is just that. It's very much based on the medical model. I work with catastrophically injured folks, mostly spinal cord injured, some brain injured, and I am expected to write a report that talks not only to, a lot of times, workers' comp case managers, but also to builders, because what the case managers are going to do is take that report from me and hand it to a builder. So unfortunately, in the role that I have right now, I don't even really get to talk to the builder. It's just shuffled from one person to the next, because the case manager wants information to be able to just give to the builder and say, here, this is what she recommends, do it. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to figure out how to do that more effectively rather than just, because at this point all I can do is suggest, well, they need a grab bar here, or they need to install a roll-in shower here, or That's all I'm doing. And you know, that may be enough. I don't know. For some builders, maybe they have more questions. And if they do, how would I change my verbiage in the future, I guess, in order to make those questions, you know, to go ahead and answer those questions. So I guess just really, how does a medical person translate their information into builder speak? I guess it depends on the builder.
You know what though? I get a lot of I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
No, go ahead, Karen. Finish your thought.
I get a lot of occupational therapy evaluations sent to us as builders. And so I read them over and then I put them in terms like this. Can you see my screen? Where it says task order. Can people see this or no?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, so I put them like this for the builders because they're not. I find and God bless the builders. They don't. I have, and I don't know if you find this too, Scott. They don't read. They won't read a whole bunch of. They won't read a paragraph. They don't read. I find like having things simple like this works really well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying bullet points.
Yeah, and like for this one, yeah, I usually do bullet points, and then I always try to talk. We always talk to them, and it's a shame that you can't talk to them because as the builder, sometimes I'll get the OT evaluations and I'll have questions, or I'll want to make a substitution based on, you know, going out there because sometimes the recommendations don't fit. You can't make them work with what you have going on. And so I want to talk to the OT and discuss it with her. So I'll ask the case manager, can I talk to the OT? And then I can discuss things with the OT, but I don't know how many builders do that. So
I think that what I was
I've never had a builder request to talk to me.
no, that's too bad.
is in your report, and I know what you're saying, and Karen's absolutely right. The contractors and even nurse case managers don't read; they just want to push it along. And this goes to how do you talk to contractors? Having seen a million of these reports that you're kind of writing, the answer is instead of writing the solution, write what you're trying to accomplish. If you're not a builder, say, I want a barrier-free shower, and then describe what barrier-free means to you. Or I think that's almost more helpful to the builders who don't understand maybe the OT perspective of what the person might need, if you're calling it that. So describe what you're trying to accomplish so that you're painting them a picture of what they need to build, and make it specific so that they can build based on your description. Does that make sense?
That's perfect.
Do you have your name and your phone number or your email address on your reports? Like by the like if you, I like it when people put the recommendations at the bottom so I don't have to read the whole report and like make notes and figure it out. And then if I had my way.
I do have mine.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
Because it's always nice if they've got their name, their phone number, and their email address at the, right by the recommendations. So that way I know how to get a hold of them. Because sometimes it takes research to flip and find them.
Right.
So when you said how to talk to builders, is this like what like Scott and I are saying? Is that what you're thinking?
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. Like what kind of verbiage makes sense to them in order for me to get my point across?
It would be so much easier if you could be with them, talk to them and have them there when you're doing the eval.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of times I don't even get to do a physical eval. It's pictures and information, and I have to give my opinion. Mm-hmm. So it's across states and all that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit different from I think what we're talking about tonight.
I will say for me, this is Bethany, having the contractor at the actual assessment really is helpful because then we can talk through. They know the more um, concrete regulations and stuff than I do. So it really does help having them.
Wait a second. No, I agree. And sometimes you want to do stuff and you can't because it's a load-bearing wall, or there's some electrical or venting that's too hard to move, and it's nice to have someone to brainstorm and figure out a different way to do things.
And I'll counter that and say you want to be able to write your report or assume that many contractors are going to see it. A family might say, well, I really want, Ricky the contractor, but Ricky's booked for 6 months and he can't come out there, or Ricky's not appropriately set up to be a business, and so even though he may be out there and talks like he knows what he's doing, always assume that your product that you're giving out is going to be recycled, reused. It needs to be read by somebody who wasn't there or doesn't have the full idea of what's going on there. So you need to be able to make sure everybody can understand when they pick it up. The crazy, OT note. Anybody needs to be able to pick up your note and start treating the person theoretically if you've done a good job.
Good point. So, what prompted this was, again, one of the things was Alicia's question. She was approached by CAPS Builder. Is that right, Alicia? She was approached by a CAPS Builder and wants to have who wants to build a relationship with her. I'm assuming for aging in place or just the private market. Carolyn Sithong is working really hard to get Home Depot to start working with OTs. One of her connections in Michigan's looking for is a builder that covers Southwest Michigan, is looking for OTs to do the evaluations, and she's not real sure what kind of business model that would be, and neither am I. And how to charge for evaluations and just charge for our services, and how to market that to the public. And I think everybody's in that place right now from what I've seen. Alicia, what kinds of things were you, do you want to explain the situation that you're in?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, and where are you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
I'm actually from Columbus, Ohio. And I'm a fairly entry-level OT, and I was actually trying to figure out different ways that I can take for a different way in the profession. And I've always been interested in the home modifications. Like I work at a SNF, and then when we go and do home evals, I just find a passion in it. Well, so then I kind of dug a little deeper, and I was researching like the CAPS and all the certifications, and then I kind of was on AOTA, and then I came across your guys's this little group. So I was like, well, maybe this is kind of how I can network and kind of learn a little bit more of how to get this started. Well, then I took it a little bit further, and on the National Home Builders Association, I found a couple builders that were here in Ohio and Columbus area, and they all were, like 3 of them were CAPS certified. And so I contacted like all 3 of them and emailed them, and only one of them emailed me back. Well, then I met with her, and it's a business that it's called Creative Housing, and they've been around for like since 1992, and they've been doing this for a really long time. And so I met with her actually one of the housing sites that they're doing all the modifications to. And so I was just talking to her about, if she's ever worked with an OT, PT. She said they've had PTs and OTs in the past, but they just more of just what they recommend, but nothing, like there's really no follow through. And so her and I were just talking and I was wanting to shadow them about the whole process of when they meet with a family, talk about the equipment, what they recommend, kind of just get an idea of how it goes about. They also work with a lot of Medicaid because of, like they were as mentioning earlier, the low income. So Medicaid is one of the programs that will pay for a lot of this home modifications to happen. So I was just trying to just get an idea, and that's when I reached out to you guys on Facebook to kind of see if there's any legalities, you know, if I'm an OT and I'm working at a SNF, you know, am I going to run into any problems where I'm contracted through these companies just to be a consultant? I mean, I wouldn't think so, just because it's no different from doing like PRN work at another facility, because it's all in the same OT realm. But I just didn't know if you guys seem to be a little bit more expertise in this than I am, so that's why I was kind of reaching out.
Does anyone in the group have any thoughts about legalities and that sort of thing, expertise?
I always say you just go back to your supervisors. It's that same question. If you're trying to practice as an OT, make sure that you don't have your conflicts of interest. But you can be a consultant as an occupational therapist. If you're trying to act as a contractor, then you need to make sure you're appropriately licensed and insured to act as a contractor. It kind of goes to that role of what does home modifications mean to you, and then when you figure out what that means, then that will help you figure out if you need to go to the state to get a builder's license or remodeler's license, or if you need to be working under doctor's orders. It kind of depends on how far you take that service that you're providing.
So, but let me see if I can envision, like what I envision with working with builders, and I think I hope everybody will kind of tell us what your thoughts are. But when I envision working in the aging in place market with builders, I envision going out to the house with the builder, maybe even before the builder, and talking to the family, figuring out what the needs are of the entire family, not just the person who's got an issue, if there is one, and then making recommendations as far as where grab bars go and how to design the bathroom so that it's accessible, and then working with the builder to make sure that he understands the plans, and also, and what I'm doing right now is making recommendations as far as the materials. I'm actually providing the materials. Things like sinks, faucets, shower pans, anything that needs to be specific for accessibility. Is that kind of what you were thinking? And when you talked to that woman, Alicia?
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking to her more of the consultant lines of saying, because we know it from a medical aspect, and given their diagnoses and their prognosis, we know with different conditions how they're going to progress or regress. And so I think as a consultant coming in and saying, hey, we recommend this, this, and this, but future thinking with their disease as it progresses, let's try to think about this. So we kind of looking at it in a different light. So I was thinking of it more as a consultant versus being a contractor, just kind of working one-on-one with them to make it more suitable for the family and the patient, and then seeing that follow through is still there after they implement all the mods in the home.
So by follow through, do you mean training the patient, or do you mean working? Because the problem I find with the builders, when you kind of have to work with them during the process, because afterwards it's too late.
Yeah, so like making the recommendations of what equipment we think is appropriate for that person, and then you work with the builder. They come in, they implement it all. They put it all in there, and then if there's any way that we can, as the OT or the PT aspect of it, to come in and follow up and do family training or do that training that's needed for them to understand the equipment. Because I don't know if the builders do that.
No, I really don't. I don't know. I always feel like builders build and OTs, problem solve. I mean, builders problem solve too, but we problem solve more of the transferring and ADL issues.
Well, you made a good point though. Is I don't know if builders do equipment, and you're kind of talking about, I think, getting at, do I need a tub buddy or do I need a piece of equipment to train the person on? Then that's more of like a DME company where you could go in and you're working as a therapist to train the person. So I would I would say I'm calling myself a therapist there. And I would say contractors aren't typically and don't typically think about the equipment, and that's a huge area where OTs could help out. So the DME part of it, and this was Beth Ann Phillips, there, and she does really the pinnacle of that, running her own ATP, or not ATP. She is an ATP and she runs her own DME company. But going back to the contractors and equipment are usually oil and water, so that's a great area for OTs to insert themselves.
Would you be working? You'd be working on your own as a freelance therapist, right? Or would you be working under the umbrella of the long-term care or the nursing home?
Well, I mean, initially, I'm still trying to figure it all out, but like, I would be probably more of a consultant for different builders, but then I don't know if you're a consultant with too many builders, if that's a conflict of interest. So I don't know if you just get contracted with one builder as their main consultant, as their go-to person for, the therapy aspect. But not so much of the SNF, working at that setting, because that home eval is a little bit different because it's more of just recommending just that basic DME. I mean, we can make recommendations for, higher things in the house that need to actually have a builder do it, but not so much. It's just more so the DME though.
That'd be a nice way to bridge into it though and get a little experience. Is anybody else doing home evaluations for nursing home?
Hey Karen, this is Kyle. I have a quick question. I'm not doing any home evaluations for a nursing home, but in regards to doing the evaluation, I'm wondering if there's the overlap in when you actually go to do the recommendations versus if you're actually doing functional evaluation. Like when you go in there to evaluate the people, are you actually doing transfers with them, doing the hands-on and the follow-up training, or do you have another therapist do that part and you just do the actual recommending?
I do it all. I usually go into a functional evaluation, like a functional mobility evaluation, and then I do a ADL evaluation, and then I look at the home and do a home evaluation.
Okay. And then afterwards, after everything's completed, do you do the training with them as well on the
Yep.
equipment?
And then afterwards, I'll do training. Sometimes, sometimes it's just depending on what they are. Sometimes it's a one-time training, but sometimes it's ongoing, like 10 to 15 visits, depending on where they're at and what it is. Head injuries take a lot of visits, I find.
Okay, great. And is that all encompassed in one evaluation charge, or do you charge hourly, or how do you normally do that?
I charge by the hour, but I do auto and workman's comp predominantly.
So it's based off the reimbursements that they offer,
Yeah.
whatever rate. Okay.
It's just easy to bill. Mahar, aren't you doing something like that as well? thought Mahar said he was doing something like that. I don't know. But I mean, I kind of feel like in order to have a business that's sustainable, you got to find different streams of income. What about you, Scott? Do you do any of that?
For SNFs and stuff like that, Karen, for
No, just
for
like
nursing homes,
for
no,
your
I don't do that.
like when you work, you do more project management, right?
Yeah, design and project management, I guess, is what I would say. And so I think that's one of those lines too about the whole OT thing is if you say that you're looking for, the future, it's just good design, and that's where, the difference between universal design and aging in place question, I don't know, I just say it's one and the same because really, I don't know, if you're just designing for the future, you can call yourself a designer. You don't have to get wrapped up in the whole OT thing, even though you're using your OT brain. But that's my own perspective on it.
Yeah. Well, for me, when I say aging in place, I'm looking more as a target market.
Yeah. You're essentially implementing the same things. You're trying to find, when you bring in a contractor, you're depending on what your mind's eye of a contractor use is a contractor just installing a grab bar, or is a contractor building ramp, or are you, blowing up a bathroom, or are you just trying to look for the right piece of equipment for the person?
Yeah, because it would definitely seem more OT than contractor.
Yeah, and if you're just inserting yourself, you say, listen, I'm going to charge the family $150 or whatever it might be for a one-time visit. That recommendation, is your recommendation for that one person today, or are you just giving them suggestions for good design that's going to last them, a lifetime? And I would hope that as OTs we're looking at, today and the future, so that then you're eliminating the kind of today OT, this is a medical model, you've got a broken arm, we need it here,
Yeah.
to this is going to be good for you for the future, and this is just good design. Pardon me. So that's why I say you can almost get rid of the OT aspect, even though you're not. I mean, I want to minimize it, but you can call yourself a designer and kind of escape some of the rules and regulations that you're trying to be careful of as an occupational therapist.
I agree because I mean, I don't know. I feel like if you're going to do a business, you can expand past occupational therapy. I mean, occupational therapy helps, and I use my occupational therapy license to bill for some things, and I mean, like Scott, we use our expertise, just like Bethany's using her expertise, yet she's not, an official OT in her job.
Yeah, and if you're going to fall back on the OT, that's a beautiful part of OT is you can do anything, is any type of treatment, any session can be billable as long as you can embed it in, a functional goal for your client is the next thing. Are you falling within the confines of our ethical standards and practices, and is it going to achieve a short-term or a long-term goal? And I would argue, say you can make damn near anything a goal or a functional task for a person, and so apply that into your home modifications too, if you'd rather lean more towards the OT aspect.
Alicia, or is it Alicia or Alicia?
It's Alicia.
Alicia. I've talked to a lot of OTs across the country that are doing home mods, and what I found is, and I know everybody's heard this from me before, a lot of times what I've heard from OTs is when they work with builders, the builders work with them for a while, and this is in a local geographic area. The builders will work with them for a while, and they'll learn what they can from the OT, and then as people start to get to know the builder as somebody who does home accessibility, then they start to cut, and they'll give the OT a cut, I think is how they typically do it. But as the builder starts to become more known, they cut the OT out because they feel like they've already learned what they needed and they can do it without the OT. And since it's the OT working for the builder and the builder's business, they can do that because the builder has created a reputation built on the OT's expertise. And so when you ask if you should work with different builders, my thought is you should have your own company and have people come to you. And then, and that's what I ended up doing, because that way you pay the bill, or that way you're building your own reputation. You're not building a builder's reputation, whether you do it as a consultant or whether you do it as the builder yourself, make yourself the builder, which is what I ended up doing. Because otherwise, I think you're looked at as a liability, an expense, instead of bringing in money and building. We're worth what we charge.
Okay,
But
that makes sense. Thank you.
yeah, if you're going to work for somebody else, that's fine. I think partner with anyone you want, but do it on your terms, under your business. So if I wasn't a builder right now, and please, it'd be nice if this was a really good discussion. And I'm thinking more aging in place than what I'm doing right now. Aging in place, maybe Medicaid waivers, because I know not everybody has auto, but workman's comp everybody has. But if I was just going to work as a consultant, which I don't think there's a lot of money in, the way you would make money, I would think, would be through evaluations. So if you're making money as a consultant, you'd make money through evaluations, equipment, and I would provide the equipment, and then follow through, follow up. Actually, I would think design. Help me out here. What else would you make money off of as a consultant? Evaluations, equipment provided, design, therapy sessions on how to use the equipment, how to use the equipment or work in the house. Anybody else? Anybody have any ideas how you'd make money as a consultant?
Helping be a personal shopper, helping the folks find the right vendor. There's lots of gas stations out there, so which gas station has the best price for your fuel? Lots of equipment providers out there providing the same piece of equipment.
Yep. I don't know, and I always figure how do interior designers do it? I don't really know, but it seems like that would be a business model for us. So if I was a consultant, I would do this, but I would have my own business and have different builders that work for me or with me.
Could you kind of set it up in a sense of like maybe your own business, like a home health kind of a thing, like the builders come in, make all the modifications and whatnot, and then you see and you do the evaluation and you follow the patient through, you do a couple of treatments, kind of with the therapy sessions, training, things like that. So is it kind of related to that in a sense, where you could just start your own home health in a sense, but then connect with the builders?
That would be ideal. Billing's hard though. I think, like billing health insurance, it kills me. So that would be the only thing I see. Oh, so what would so okay, Um, what are anybody else's thoughts as far as working with the caps? For instance, I'm going to be meeting with somebody, and I'd like it if other people said what they're doing, but I'm going to be meeting with a builder soon, and the questions we're going to have, and this is for this is for the private sector, which I'm like most OTs are more comfortable getting paid by insurance than private people. But this builder wants to work with OTs in Michigan, or Southwest Michigan, actually. And and to be consultants. She wants to build, and she wants to partner with OTs to do the consulting on it, to do the evaluations, and she's not sure what else. She needs me to tell her because she doesn't know what it is OTs do. And you guys are all in the same boat, I would think, as far as starting businesses. So I'm going to be meeting with her, and we're going to be talking about what do OTs do and what can I provide for her and what are my costs going to be? How much is it going to cost? And so I've been real hesitant to meet with her because I wasn't sure how to go about this.
Karen, tell me again, what role does she play?
She owns a construction business.
Okay.
And she's been doing green construction in Southwest Michigan, and she wants to expand into the aging in place market. And she contacted me as an OT. She didn't know that I have a construction company. She does now because I told her. But I don't do aging in place. I do auto and workman's comp. And so she wants to meet with me, and she wants me to do the evaluations, but she doesn't really know much more that I can do for her. She just wants someone to come in and tell her builders what to do.
And these are as built or new builds?
Either. She does new builds, she does additions, and she does remodeling.
Residential or commercial or both?
Primarily residential.
You're selling yourself short then, Karen. I mean, you don't want to be the OT. You said it just a moment ago, is that you're going to train her and then she's going to do it on her own and then say goodbye.
Exactly.
You say, listen, you're licensed in Michigan, right? Or you're...
Right. I got a builder's license.
So sub it out to me. I think the remodels, that takes more creativity and it takes you a long time. And if you do that enough, then, she may not cut you out. But new builds, you go for a while. Oh, I've got this figured out. So she could use you as a builder on some of these. And then when you say, well, you don't do remodeler and what else? I forget what you just said. You don't do that. You just do
I don't do aging in place.
Yeah, but that's selling yourself short. I think you do. You're good at designing the space, and you can go into a house that somebody got crashed in a car and they're going to be in a wheelchair for 8 weeks. You could go out and build a ramp for them.
It's not my target market, though. I mean, I'm not known in the aging in place. That's a lot more local. I do a little bit, but I don't do a whole lot. I feel like it's a completely different market than what I'm working in right now. And it's a market that I'm not certain. I don't do work in the private sector. I mean,
but doesn't your work eventually go to a private person?
Yeah, but it does. Yeah, of course it goes to a private person.
And a ramp is a ramp. The slope is a slope. If a person came to you and said, Karen, I'll pay you $12,000 to build me a beautiful ramp with lattice work and everything else in the front of my house, you'd say no?
People don't know enough about me to do that. I'm not known in that target market. It's just what I'm saying. It's not a market I've targeted. It's not one that I advertise to.
Do you want to be in that market?
I'm busy right now. I am out of my head busy with the market that I'm in, which is auto
Well,
and no fault.
you
But
know
what
what?
this woman wants to do, go ahead,
I have a thought, but it may not be the
bring
right
it on.
answer for your question. But I'm thinking, you could also act like a consultant and say, well, I'm happy to give you some information and, tell you about specifications for dealing with aging in place and universal design and some things to consider. And this is what my fee is to do that. And it might be whatever it might be. It might be several $1,000s to provide this person with your level of expertise as a consultant.
Well, the way this was pitched to me is it's somewhat a big company, and it's owned by this woman, and she doesn't go, and she doesn't do the building herself. She used to it, but now she's more of an overseer, and she wants someone to go out and do the evaluations for aging in place with her builders.
Okay.
And so, and it really wouldn't even be me most of the time. It'd be OTs that I have working for me, for her, because she's mostly in Grand Rapids and I'm south of there. But as you pointed out to me, Scott, she'll take the credit and then cut me out when she's done, and which she could very possibly do.
Yeah, I don't think you're selling yourself short. Get another crew going and do it yourself. And your marketing and everything else, saying that you don't do aging in place. So let me understand better. When you say you do workers' comp and auto, what do you mean when you say you do that?
Those are my target audiences, and that's the market that I serve.
So what's the deliverable, though, I guess is the question. What's the deliverable that you provide to that market?
It's the same deliverable for both. But for instance, I have brochures for my clients, the end users, and I have brochures for the case managers. And I'm not really sure how to bill for aging in place. So I know how I bill the way for my market. It's a different niche. It's not a niche that I do. And it's not because it's the same. It would be very similar expertise as far as modifying and designing. I just don't know how it works and who pays and how much they pay.
And that's what we're having these same kind of conversations in Southeast Michigan, except for there's no builder necessarily knocking on our door. We work with contractors, but we haven't found a builder who, I guess, is building new construction who would be interested in this. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of opportunity out there for this sort of thing. And if builders are the type to cut people out and you have a builder's license, I mean, if I had a builder's license, that would be awesome. The niche really isn't, I mean, I've never done my own business like you, but as far as when you're planning ahead, you're making those recommendations, it's very similar.
Oh, yeah.
You're just making it universal. So I would probably do what they recommended. I'm a consultant, here's my fee, and you could go do it yourself.
That's what you would.
Your own team. I'm sorry?
That's what you would do as a consultant. Here it is. Go do it. Is that what you just said?
If the builders are the type to cut you out in the end,
yeah,
that's been people's experience, then yeah. Because I have a CAP certification, but I'm not a builder, so I haven't quite figured out this avenue of how to work with builders and have that same language, I guess. But I definitely know, especially with all of the information with Medicare going on about fall prevention and preventative and hospital readmission, people are really looking for something to address this on a larger scale, not just on a individual one-on-one scale. How you make it happen, I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, Karen, what you're asking is a huge, huge undertaking. I think um, working in the private sector and trying to switch over, what you're getting into is just a giant ball of wax that's so much broader. And I know you know this than just, do I send an OT out to consult? Because what is that OT providing? What is your quality assurance of that OT? If you're out of your mind with all of this other stuff, you're asking for headaches to send out others to go provide what is really kind of like a proprietary knowledge base of your service.
Except I have several OTs that that are working for me in that area. I've got 4. And we've been working together for a while, and we usually, we work a lot together. So I've got OTs to cover it. But I hear what you're saying.
If you send out 4 different OTs to the same house, are they your 4 OTs? Are they all going to say have the same recommendations?
Oh no.
And so then the question comes back to is what's the expectation of the person that's paying you for this service when the homeowner is disappointed that it doesn't work out? And as your fees do that, and you could never do that because you can't guarantee what each person can do because everybody has a different set of eyes, and the sun shines a different way each day, and so
the OTs I have working for me in its Grand Rapids area, we've been working together for a while, and when they first start out, we work together. We go to the homes together, and then as they get more jobs, we start doing more things with pictures and discussions. And then they get to the point where I feel comfortable that I feel like they're trained well and they know what they're doing. Because this is a specialty area, but it's not impossible to learn. And the OTs that I have working for me right now in the Grand Rapids area, I have a lot of confidence in. So that part isn't something that worries me. As far as, I think they're going to do a good job. They've done a good job for me in the past. I can't do, because I don't know. I can't do it all. So I've got several OTs throughout the state of Michigan that work with me and for me. So that part I'm not worried about so much. I feel like I've got some good trained people, and if I was doing aging in place, I would use Carolyn Sithong's app because I think it cuts down the evaluation time, and I think it does a good job of making sure it hits all the points. But I hear what you're saying. You're saying with that.
Well, then in that case, your conversation with this lady really is then, here's a flat rate to use my service, in my opinion.
Yeah, every time you have because what she wants to do is partner on it, so that it will be the name of her company, which is Greenspan Construction or something like that, and barrier-free OT. So then, if somebody needs a evaluation, we would come in as barrier-free OT, and we would charge directly to the client, I think is what she's thinking. She said that she would use barrier-free OT, and that's part of it for her is getting out of the liability of the OT evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
And after talking with Marnie Renda, she told me what she does is she charges a rate to do a walkthrough, and then just give verbal recommendations. And then if they want her to write it out, I think she charges like $150 for a walkthrough for the whole house. And then she charges like $200 to write it up, or $250. I can't remember what she said to write it up, and then additional for design.
that was an additional
I
200
actually,
for the
she's
write-up?
from Cincinnati, isn't she?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. She's from Cincinnati.
I actually, okay, that's what I thought. I actually have been in contact with her in the past, and she was actually she was working on contracts in the Columbus area, and she was going to have me do the home mod evaluations for her company in the Columbus area, but it kind of fell through, and I never heard back from her, and I tried to reach out to her again, and I still didn't hear anything back. So it's funny that you brought her up.
She's been out there doing it for a long time. She's really good. I mean, she's really good. But she's been doing more of the consult kind of role. And I think she just added home mods to it, where the actual installation stuff. So, Scott, I have a lot of I really admire how you do your business and how well you've been doing. So I really do I value your opinion, and I value the opinions of everybody here. And I think other people are sort of in this consult dilemma role. What do you think? You think, oh, we shouldn't do consult, just consult, or what are you thinking? What are you guys thinking? How do you see this going? This is new territory for me. But I want to play with it. I want to try it out. I feel like I've got an opportunity to make some money. What was that, Mahar?
Can you hear me okay?
Not very well.
What about now? Can you hear me?
That's better.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm having a problem with the mic. Luckily, I've been enjoying the interaction. I'm in Maryland as well. I guess Scott is in Maryland.
Ooh, I can't.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
so I want to just go back to the builders part because we have been hearing about dealing with the builders, and I've been trying to formulate.
I can hardly hear you. Is there something else you can do? I don't know if anybody else can hear him very well.
Not well.
Let me see if I can switch mics. Let me see if I can get a different mic. Go ahead and just continue. I'll get to work with the mic. I'm sorry about this trouble.
Yeah, Karen, but the consulting part, I think, what is your deliverable is the question, and then your target market. Trying to convince the homeowners that a home modification or a home walk and talk consult is worthwhile is so hard to sell. And if you can figure out how to sell that, then you're all set. You can just buy an island and you'll be all set, because nobody wants to believe that they need this consulting because it seems so common sense. But then it's no common sense, nobody actually does it, and so then you say, well, geez, it's not common sense, that's worth some money. There are the people who are starting to say, geez, this is a niche and I want to pay for it, but finding those folks is hard. So if you have somebody, a builder, who is saying, listen, I'll pay you to come out and talk to these few people that we happen to get every once in a while, then frame your market as, look, I'm going to provide a OT on site for an hour and a half or for however many square feet of the house, and we're going to talk about it. And that's a flat rate of, $350 or $500, whatever's worth the time. Or start branding yourself and say that I'm, the grab bar OT specialist, and so we'll come out and we'll walk and talk, but all we're going to do is grab bars. Hee hee ha ha, I'm really a builder. Oh, somebody needs a grab bar, they're going to need a ramp, and they're going to, oh, you need a door widened. Yeah, hey, we can do that too, and use that as your little kicker to get you into the stuff that actually makes money, because consulting stuff, unless you're doing it full time and have a very dense population like Baltimore, I don't think consulting is gonna, put your meat on the table.
You know what though? The problem is,
It's too hard.
yeah, but I think people don't want to relate to being disabled. And I think that's where things fall apart. I know Carolyn was talking about people weren't taking Home Depot up on the opportunity to have an occupational therapist because people felt, I'm not sick, I don't need an OT. And I think that's where we fall apart, is because people look at us as a medical model and they don't want to be considered an invalid. Or, like you said, it's too common sense. They don't need an OT to come out.
But the pneumo arms, look at those. I'm not getting old. I need that stuff when I'm older or when I'm sick.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you're 90. Things aren't going to get much better here. You got to start thinking about this stuff now.
But see, that's where I feel like we got to change what people see when they think of us, not as people who are there to do medical thing. I don't know. I want to be thought of as somebody who can help you keep your lifestyle cool and fun, no matter what your physical disability is, or or make your house comfortable and make your life feel good, even though you have bad knees. I mean, you hear what how do we do that with OTs?
My best angle has always been, if you have a group of folks, you say, how many people talk with a financial planner at least once a year to look at your financial future? And 95% of the people are going to say, oh yeah, I do that. Then you say, all right, well, how many people who own a home here are meeting with, their contractor once a year to look at how you would build in a ramp, or how you would build in a whatever? Or how many people are meeting with a new contractor once a year, just to make sure when they have to have that moment, they can plan ahead? Because your second greatest source of wealth, if you own a home, is your home. So why aren't we being proactive in that way? And folks are usually like, oh, yeah, okay. And that's like the angle to sell yourself, is that this is a financial decision for your future, and people will latch onto that a little bit more. But you're absolutely right. Going medical, and it's like telling somebody they're going to die tomorrow. They don't.
Yeah, they're not going to go.
We're Grim Reaper's assistants when we say we want to give you a grab bars.
All right. Can you guys hear me now better?
Oh, much better.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. I had to borrow my son's earphones. So, sorry about that. So, that's an interesting question. Just a couple of things that I hope I'll recap everything that I want to say. But what you started with, Karen, talking about how you sell and promote the issue, I think we OTs, even that we don't get an education degree, or we don't get the marketing degree, at the clinic, I find that we do a lot of promotion of our services, which is the treatment plan to get the patient acquainted and to buy into why you want them to do certain exercises and why this is important for them. If you sit with a financial planner or someone who want to sell you insurance, they make it like, hell is going to break loose if you don't buy that insurance plan, and what if you die tomorrow, and what if this, and what if that, and what's going to happen to your family. I think if we adopt, some of these tactics, we can help people understand that falls are serious and how lifestyle is impacted by aging, and how you need to protect your investment, and on, and how life can be easier by making your house more conducive and friendlier. I use some of that to share what I do with some of the case managers and support planners that I get business from, and I find that they really enjoy listening to that stuff, because we see the better of both worlds. We see the medical aspect, and we see the environmental aspect, and we can match the two together. Now, on the other end, I did actually, after listening to all the discussions that we had about builders, today I group myself and I approach a builder that I know in the community and I told them about what I do. And actually, majority of what I do, or actually all what I do at this point, is assessments. And I can see that eventually I need to go into the actual design, training, and the mod part. But at this point, I'm busy with the assessments as much as I would like to. But the way that I approach that builder is based on, again, the discussions that we had. I told them that you will be working under my company, and I will be getting these referrals and businesses, and you'll offer me the cost or give me a bid that you're gonna need to complete the job, and I will take my cut, and if everything is gonna go out under my name eventually. And you know, I made it so sort of bluntly clear that I will be recruiting him, and we need to sit down and work out all the details and write up an agreement. And it's just, I mean, amazing how you think about all the equipment issues and the what if he goes back to get another round of business from the same family. Is that something that you deal with or not? And I know we spoke about that and agreed that I'd have nothing to do with that. But I feel that somehow we have to get our feet wet, and there's going to be a learning curve, and I know that there are going to be challenges and some roadblocks that we'll have to work over. But without getting there, we will always be scared to jump in the water and make our way.
Good. That's excellent. Good job. I've got joint venture agreement that I use with my builders, and I'll send you a copy of it. And it's basically a joint venture non-compete contract. I had an attorney.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Remind me if I don't send it to you. Send me an email.
I will. But you know, again, I do mostly work with the waiver program in Maryland after the Obamacare came into place. They revamped these programs, and now they call them Community First Choice and Community Options. The money follows the person program. That's, you know, what they call them, but they are in essence what they used to be called Medicaid adult waiver, and they do have about $16,000 allocated. Unfortunately, the guidelines are not so clear about what they do and what they don't. I get to speak with people from the state, from the program, almost on a monthly basis, and they would not do major mods. I mean, they told me that we don't change space allocations. We don't enlarge rooms. We don't do concrete. We don't break down walls. But they will widen doors. They will build ramps. They would convert tubs into walk-in showers and that kind of stuff. And talking about the tubs, did you, Karen? I thought that was an exciting thing to find.
Yeah.
About the tub cut.
Yeah.
Is that something that you dealt with? Can you tell us anything about it?
Well, I don't know what you know about this, Scott, but I know in Michigan, I actually contacted someone. You have to be certified by the tub cuts company, and I can't remember how much that cost, but it would have cost. I was going to
$3,000.
$3,000 to get certified.
Yep.
And then there's one guy in Michigan who's certified. He's on the east side of the state, and he was going to charge me like, I don't know, like $2,000, I think it was, to come over to my side of the state and do a tub cut. And so it was expensive, but he had to travel. But I thought they were cool. Have you done any of those, Scott, or anybody else?
I've looked into the tub cuts as far as not actually doing them, but I thought it was so interesting that they're completely reversible. So if a person makes the tub cut and they feel like they're taking away from the value of their home, because if they ever want to sell, they're concerned that they have this odd looking tub. But in fact, the homeowner holds on to the piece that's cut out. It's then put back in, and you never know it was taken out. And the other beauty of it is it works on all different materials of tubs, which I thought was interesting. So it sounds like a very cost-effective option when compared with replacing an entire tub.
Yeah, I agree.
I was so elated when I found about that about maybe 3 weeks ago, because I run into these scenarios frequently where I know that bathtubs become a very scary adventure sort of for some seniors, and trying to allow them to soak while they can step in is a huge thing. And some of these tub cut processes or options, they allow you to have an actual door to the bathtub, so you can close that cut after you step in. It's like a little gate, and you can lay down and if you need to soak, but you don't have to step over it. And it's just an amazing thing.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, Nancy, I think you sent something about that too.
No, I haven't used that before. I have not used that before. I think I sent you an email talking about the seats that, will sort of submerge a person in the tub. The shower seat that will sort of raise.
Will soak?
Mm-hmm.
The seat that will let you soak?
Yes, those seats. I sort of looked into a few of those, and I don't have the names in front of me, but I just sort of Googled it. And I ended up recommending one.
The bath.
It was, I think, in the $500-600 range. There, Karen, you had some that you recommended. They were quite a bit more, and they might be better. I don't know, but
I don't know if they are. Bath lifts is what she's talking about.
But it's also for a Medicaid waiver client who has a spinal cord injury, and she really wanted to be able to soak in the tub, very cognitively intact and so forth. So her sitting balance is good enough that I thought with some supervision she could do it. Anyway, so I recommended it. Whether the Medicaid waiver, whether they will ever pay for that for her, I do not know. I am not sure, but it's an issue. Can I bring up one other thing about bathing? Is it okay if we do that?
Yeah.
That we're talking? Okay. So often in Baltimore, we have a lot of situations where we have these row homes in the city, no first floor powder room or bathroom. Wow. It's a big problem across the city for the, sort of for the poor, population especially. So I ended up, I don't know what's going to happen, but I think I want to recommend instead of, they wanted to know about maybe getting a stair lift, which was not going to work for them. And so I ended up thinking about the sort of portable shower that you had discussed a few weeks ago. And I've forgotten the name of the company that you recommend for sort of that the portable shower, if you will, that you can set up in your kitchen and attach to the sink.
The mobile wheelchair shower.
Yeah, the folding shower.
Is it your name or like a company that you recommend?
I recommend essentialluxuries.com.
Oh, okay. You already put it down. Fantastic. Essential Luxury. Okay.
And that's my website that I sell things out of. Let's see.
Okay. Oh, you sell that out of there. Okay.
And what I want to do, we're gonna talk. Here's one right here. This is really the best one. I've sold a lot of these. But we're gonna talk about distributorships next month. But for something like this, if you need something like this, let me know, because then you can have your client just order through this website, and then you can, because I want to set up so you guys, because I have distributorships for all these things.
Right.
So I want to set it up so that you guys get part of the money for them.
Right. Absolutely.
I don't. Yeah. I mean, what the different things you get different amounts of money for, but this would be something, you know, this is one of them, and I want to have it organized by January.
All
Or
right, well,
actually last month. Yeah, faucet.
So Karen, a question about this that I was asked. So what do people do if they set it up, let's say in the garage in winter time?
Most of the people I work with don't set it up in the garage. They set it, I mean, I guess you could put a heater out there. It folds up so it gets real small like this, so they can put it away. Or I had one guy who set it up in where his washer and dryer used to be and just left it up at all times. See, it just hooks up to the faucet.
Nice, nice.
So I
And
don't.
drain.
What was it? Oh, and then it drains it's got a pump on it, which you can see right here. And the pump has you can get up to a 15-foot hose for it, and you just put it in the sink or in the toilet, and it just pumps the wastewater out.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, have you worked with these much, Scott?
Yeah, I like them.
I love these.
They work really well. The only thing is just making sure that you give them a chance to dry, because they get a little, or spray them down with a shower cleaner before you fold them up. But yeah, they have the right place, the right time.
Yeah, that's my biggest complaint from them is they don't want you got to dry them before you fold them up.
Yeah. I was going to go back to those tub lifts, and maybe they've gotten better. I always struggled with how when you sit down and actually you have some, right?
Yeah.
That unless you have a deeper, like a Greek tub, your typical 15-inch older tubs, and especially for Nancy too in Baltimore, you don't get to actually get down deep enough, and then it eats up the length of the tub. So unless you're a little bit shorter person, your knees are kind of jacked up in the air because they have to sit before the slope of the back of the tub and then the thickness of the seat. And by the time you get done, you're sitting like you're a little kid with your knees up in the air in the tub. And so have they improved that at all, or?
I do know that some of the seats, I looked into a few of them, one of them automatically reclines as you're going down, which to your point. And then there was another company that the back of the seat does not automatically recline unless you press a button to make it recline more. So maybe that then provides more space in the tub.
It does. It definitely is an issue.
Yeah.
But even with the reclining ones, a lot of times, because I've had people move from one place to another, even with the reclining ones, it just sort of lets it go back. It doesn't actually push it back. So I've had people use the reclining ones in tubs where it didn't allow the whole back to recline. For what, so that way they'd still have a little more space.
It's not a perfect solution. It's not a perfect solution, but it's a tough situation for people who want to get down in the tub and cannot, for sure.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
The only real complaint I've gotten with these is if there's more than one person using the bathtub, it weighs like, I think, 25 pounds. And so unless there's somebody there who's very able, it's hard to pull it in and out of the tub. So I've gotten that complaint over these. And they go down kind of slow. 1 minute approximately is how long it takes for it to go from the top to the bottom of the tub and from the bottom to the top. But most of them, I have a nice feature where if there's not enough juice in the battery to lift the chair back up out of the water, it won't go down.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep.
Nancy, do you have a building company yourself?
I do not have a building company. No, I am a consultant. Now, my husband is a home builder who really generally, he has his own things that he's doing. But I can sort of call on him for advice, and information. And So far, we haven't done a whole lot of real specific things together, but I will consult with him sometimes on some of his products, and then he gives me advice on some of the things I'm making recommendations about.
And I see home builder. Does he do remodeling?
No, he does not really do remodeling. That's why we haven't done a whole lot of collaboration. He generally does new home construction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So can't you just use his builder's license and hire some of your own builders? I like the little guys I always go for the little guys because they don't have as much overhead.
Well,
But
what do you mean by use his license? I'm not sure I understand, because you mean like have him have like another company, or we make one together, or what do you mean?
well, in Michigan, like for instance, I have my builder's license, and then Functional Homes has its builder's license, which means I have to dedicate my license to Functional Homes. And then I've been approached by a few other companies. For instance, one of my builders has been building his whole life under his dad's builder's license, and he's worried that his dad's going to die. And if he does, he asked me, can he use my builder's license for his company, which I'm not comfortable with because it was too darn hard for me to get my own. But it seems like
Maryland has a home builder's license and then their MHIC. They're two different things.
Right. Remodeling license is different.
Oh, it is.
Right.
So your dad or your husband probably couldn't do both.
I guess he could get a second license if he wanted to, but but I will add one thing just unrelated, which I know in Maryland, I don't know in other states. Now, I and probably Mahar is in the same category, that we as occupational therapists are called on to do the environmental assessments. Then there's a whole separate list of suppliers for the durable medical equipment and a separate list for the people who actually do the adaptations. So, somebody in our state, I don't know about other states, could create a business, get on that list, and potentially work up a relationship with case managers and clients to get called upon to do the actual modifications.
Well, let me give you an update about that, Nancy.
Okay.
Speaking with the people at the state at Medicaid waiver, I spoke to them about that because I started talking to them about doing the modifications and applying for that concept. And what they told me that they are trying to gradually move away from that business model because they foresee what they call conflict of interest. Wow. Because me, the OT, could go in there and say, well, we need to build a ramp when the client could go in to the house maybe through the garage door, but I thought, it would be cool for them to go through the main entrance. So I don't know when is that gonna flourish and come into action. They did not give me details about that, but they did not seem to be overly excited about having the same person doing the assessment as well as the mods.
Okay, I understand. Okay, good information. Thank you.
So, if you have your husband with his MHIC number now, probably you would be better going that route rather than, going around trying to do both yourself and then only for them to eliminate that option.
Right. That's a good point. Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to go back real quick to what's the deliverable, and talking about best angle to deal with people. I'm a strong believer in going for the deep pockets, and what I've heard a lot through these meetings is there's a lot of money out there for the lower income people as far as just getting basic home mods done. And I find that in Michigan too, with Area Agency on Aging, they'll pay for home mods, just basic things. But I really want to promote occupation. Like, for instance, if I was going to be just if I was going to be a consultant, I would want to promote what I do as more like lifestyle design.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would want it to be something posh and something cool.
Mm-hmm.
How do we do that? And I would want to market, like, I've been working, the only real private sector stuff I've been doing has been with a woman who is a architect or landscape architect. And the reason I've been working with her is because she's been finding people who need my services, but the people that she works with are really have a lot of money, and they don't have a problem at all having me come in. And I'm coming in as a builder. I'm not coming in as the OT so much, but I'll come in and do their jobs for them, and they don't question what I charge. And I always find the best materials for them. And I haven't done a whole lot. I've done a couple with her, but how do you find those? I mean, I feel like what we should be doing is that market. Really.
Well, networking. I mean,
cool.
I think it's networking in your community, like knowing where there might be groups of people who, whether they're living in nicer senior buildings together or, as I've said before, churches and synagogues, or, sort of community programs where you get your name out there.
Yeah. So hang out where the luxury is. I mean, I want this to be considered luxurious and cool, because that's what people want to identify with. And I feel like that's the only way we can really create a demand for ourselves. Because nobody wants to, like Scott said, think of dying.
And that's why I think it needs to go to design. And as soon as you link yourself to medical,
Mm-hmm.
you're hamstringing yourself.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Who wrote it earlier? That somebody wrote it that, Ginny said that she calls herself a home modification specialist. And even that has a medical connotation. You just, need to hang up your shingle and say you're a home remodeler or a design specialist, and then if people and just talk about the design itself, what you're accomplishing. Because green building, everybody's so all about green, and really you can go do Home Depot and get everything that's green and energy efficient now, but it was a thing, and hopefully if we do our task right, universal design or good smart design will be just another thing that you can get, but for a while you need to be the person how to do it.
Good point. So what else could we call ourselves? I have no idea where that noise is coming from.
I'm sorry, it's my fax machine. I apologize for that.
Oh, no worries. So how could we, universal design, smart design, now that again isn't taking the OT into it, but OT's medical, like Scott said, that's hamstringing ourselves. What? Because how else can we market our services?
The equipment aspect, again, is which angle are you coming in at? Which are you most passionate about? Is it new builds? Then latching yourself onto, I won't even say it, but
a developer.
A developer, like the architects, but architects I found don't get it.
No.
As a remodeler, are you going to go with the equipment aspect, and then when you're with an equipment company and you have your ATP and you're recommending equipment, you can also get out there and say, well, what was great or is a great way to enhance the usability of this equipment is to do da 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 da. That's another kind of avenue. Or become a remodeler. That's where the money is, and the headaches are lessened.
No, I don't know if I'd say lessened.
Well,
darn, I get some headaches.
Not as a consultant. No, I know that all too well. If you can deal with people less, the less you can deal with people, the easier your life is. But if you're trying to manage several contractors, and I'm doing that day in and day out, you bang your head against the wall. So the less you can deal with your clients and just do great design, that's where it's the most fun.
It is. And Mahar said something about getting a design degree. I never bother with that. I just got a designer and worked with him. Or if it's a big project, I'll get an architect and work with him.
Oh, no, I meant that, we don't, neither that we do have a marketing degree or an education degree, but we just have to learn how to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's essential for us to promote our services. But, what I want to say is that I think going back to the basics, let's call it the basics and the grassroots of OT, talking about using simple terminology related to the ADLs, I found to be that stuff that makes sense to the case managers when you speak to them about that the client would have difficulty reaching to their kitchen cabinets and getting into the bathtub, and they could fall, and that deprives them the ability to go out in the community, and they have an issue going out in case of an emergency because they don't have a ramp, and that kind of terminology and explanation, I found that has helped me develop a bond with some of the case managers because, number one, I speak at a language that they can relate to. Number two, it shows them, the level of expertise that not the architect, neither the builder would be able to explain it to them, because we understand humans and relate humans' abilities and limitations to the environment. So that would be my approach, and I found that they appreciate that and they valued that you are given a visual of the challenges that the client is having at home, and that's why they need such and such.
Yeah.
How can we make that sound glamorous? This gotta sound glamorous, not glamorous. For real. There's nothing cool about that. I mean, there is no, there isn't. There's nothing, that doesn't sound cool. And I think it needs to, I don't know, sound a little cool. I'm going to be thinking about that because I mean, it's just, that's how I just feel like that's what we do. What's a good way to market it? A way that people want to identify with and want to be a part of it. And maybe it doesn't have occupational therapy in it. Maybe occupational therapy is a subtitle. Speaking, I mean, in my mind, just how do we do this so that people think it's, I mean, that's what I tried to do with my website. It's an essential luxury. How can we be essential luxuries that people want to be a part of? I don't know. Because other than that, I think we have to really focus on people who are in such a point of pain where if they don't have their house modified, they can't live in it. You know, it just seems like otherwise people don't act on it. I don't know what anybody else has found.
I think we're all probably trying to think, and it's just hard to think of the right terminology.
Yeah.
Lifestyle design, somebody said.
Yeah, I mean, although lifestyle design is really being used a lot right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although maybe not with the older generation. Maybe they're not so familiar with that term. But I feel like that's what we need. We need a hook. Because this is what we do, but there's no hook there. So until we meet again, I think we should all start looking for, I mean, I don't know. I feel like the luxury market is the way to hit it because that's where the money is. And once people start to identify you as that, then you can do sort of a trickle down effect where you can have a lower echelon sort of thing. I don't know. What's anybody else's thought on this one?
I feel like it's very individual, Karen. You know, like what a person feels like their expertise is, which part of this they feel most comfortable with, what skills each of us has, or you know, I guess we're still maybe all looking at our own populations. It's the whole thing is so very individualized in some ways. Don't you think so?
I do. What I'm wondering though is where the money's at in this.
Yeah, where's the money? That's a good question. I don't know, because there certainly are a lot of products. There are a lot of products out there, aren't there? When you start to look through catalogs, and you know, there's a lot of other professions and groups who are attempting to market this as well, right?
Yeah, but they don't know they're not going for adaptive equipment though. They're going for, from what I've seen, they're going for home mods, straight home mods. But I
So
don't know.
you're saying we're able to do both, is what you're really saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's like with Essential Luxuries. I don't know if you heard him saying pneumo arms. That's the whatchamacallit, that's the armrest for the toilet. I don't like the website at all. I don't like how it's organized. But here they are.
Well, can I say one thing? I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I don't know about the name to use, but I do think there might be a benefit in developing, either for yourself or the group, developing a really nice slideshow PowerPoint or movie type thing where we can take it and go to constituent groups that we might be trying to target and really just show them on maybe even different price points how you can change your home, or if you're going to be moving, things to really think about, and sort of whet their appetite a little bit for some of the things that are possible.
Nice idea.
You know, and maybe get some business out of that.
Yeah. I think that's a really good idea. I still think we need a hook though.
Mm-hmm.
Lifestyle design in human terms. I like that better, Louis. Well, you guys, thank you for coming tonight. I hope you guys are getting as much out of this as I am, because I'm learning a lot, and it's just good to have people to discuss it with.
Yep,
That was a
absolutely.
great meeting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for organizing this.
Thank you. I will. And everyone, again, I keep thinking, well, we should talk about AOTA. Please try to make it to AOTA. Hopefully we can have a nice field trip out there. We've got a few things in mind, and we'll just take it from there.
Excellent.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'll post this. I promise to post this soon.
All right.
Good night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Yeah, Jenny, I hope you can. You have to for next time.